On this very YouTube channel, I have played through every single Monster Jam game. And certainly some of these games have been quite a bit better than other ones.
There.
Awesome!
Oh, whoa, what just that?
Extreme!
Whoa! So I figured, hey, why not make a top 10 list of the best Monster Jam games? Now I'm going to be going off of what Wikipedia considers a Monster Jam game. So if there's like some Monster Truck game that you would consider, you know, a Monster Jam game, like for example, Monster Truck Madness, that doesn't count technically because it's not on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia always tells the truth. But either way, let's get into number 10. At number 10 and number 9, we have Monster Jam Battlegrounds / Monster Jam Mobile. Now, I've only played the Monster Jam Battlegrounds version of the game, which is on Steam, but from what I understand, Monster Jam Mobile is essentially the same thing. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that the game is bad, but it's not exactly what I would want from a Monster Jam game. The game is essentially a side-scrolling Trials-like game, and you know, it's not fun, but it's not necessarily what I would want out of a Monster Jam game. I would want 3D freestyles, races, drag races, that sort of thing. But the main thing this game offers is just the Trials segment. Now it does have a few, you know, 3D sections. It has a freestyle and a race mode. Both of them are very, very bland though. It's very clear they put much more effort into the Trials part of the game. The physics on the 3D sections are pretty weird, and it's generally just, it's not a preferable experience for 3D Monster Jam gaming. So all around, just not my favorite. It is my least favorite Monster Jam game. It's not awful necessarily, but it's not good. Okay, then at number 8 we have Monster Jam Crush It, which is honestly a very, very similar game to Battlegrounds. Now, from an objective point of view, I would honestly probably say this game is worse than Battlegrounds, but there are some things that I like about this game, even though I shouldn't. It's a very glitchy game. Which, you know, isn't a good thing, but yet it's very funny sometimes and very enjoyable for that reason. So that's kind of why I placed it above Battlegrounds right there, just for that reason alone. That being said though, at launch when I bought this on the Switch, it was like $40 or $50, which is absolutely insane. I can't remember how much I got Battlegrounds for it, but it was certainly like probably no more than $10, I would imagine. And there is no world where Crush It is worth $40 or $50, whatever it was. And yeah, I'm surprised it's not a mobile game, honestly. It pretty much could be. Again, it's just Trials, and it does have a bit more focus on the 3D sections. There are more than in Battlegrounds, but even so, it's not good. Very glitchy, as I said, which again, I personally kind of like for the wrong reasons, but still obviously objectively not a good thing for a game to be. But moving on though, next we have at number 7, Monster 4x4 Masters of Metal. Now I think I'm gonna get some people mad for putting it this low on the list. I know some people really do like this game, and honestly, in some ways, it's a good game. I think the gameplay itself is great. There's a decent amount of game modes. You have the basic race, as well as like an outdoor waypoint race thing, and then an exhibition mode, which can have just a variety of different events. And honestly, in my opinion, it's a good balance of realism and gameplay in a way that is fun and somewhat easy to get used to. Like, I would say this game has better physics in that sense than what even the Steel Titans games did, which are the newest Monster Jam games. I would say it did a better job, honestly, in the physics department. Now, you may be wondering, okay, you said all these great things about the game, why is it only number 7 on the list? I despise the voice acting and the cutscenes in this game so much.
My dream has finally come true. I'm going to prove I'm the best in races across America. But I also need to win to keep the cash flowing.
So I have an offer for you. Since you're headed across America already, what do you say to a private off-road race? I'll lay out a course along the way and let you decide how best to follow it.
The dialogue that plays over your gameplay and just in the cutscenes, it gives me a weird vibe that I don't like. Now, I'm pretty sure you can turn off the dialogue. I personally never did that in my playthrough, but I'm pretty sure that is a thing you can do. And maybe that would have made my, experience better. But just judging purely off of the one playthrough I did, I didn't exactly love the game for that exact reason. Also, yeah, the lack of freestyle was kind of a bummer. Again, the game mostly focuses on the races and the exhibition modes, so you don't really get much in the freestyle type department. So next up we have Monster Jam Maximum Destruction. So this game is actually pretty unique from the other Monster Jam games, and I would say in a good way compared to what you got with Crush It and Battlegrounds. Like, what this game does is unique and it's pretty cool. It basically focuses on a battle royale type mode, and the idea is you can find different items and weapons to try to destroy your opponents. Apparently it's a Twisted Metal knockoff, which I have not played that game, so I couldn't tell you for sure, but that's what I've heard. Now again, I think this is a very cool idea. That being said, personally I prefer, races, freestyles, as I said, that kind of thing, which this game doesn't very much so provide. It does have a freestyle mode and some other game modes which are pretty cool, but they're pretty limited in comparison to, the Battle Royale type mode. And also, I'm pretty sure it's actually the only Monster Jam game that features the superhero trucks, like Spider-Man, Wolverine, stuff like that. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. Yeah, all around, pretty good game, but just personally not exactly what I want from a Monster Jam game, but still a cool idea. Okay, so next up we have the first Monster Jam Still Titans game. So yeah, this game actually released pretty recently, back in 2019. This was actually Monster Jam's return to full 3D gameplay, as the last two games were Crush It and Battlegrounds, so a much needed return to form in that sense, which I was very, very happy about. But just because the game is new doesn't necessarily mean it's good. This game has very wonky physics for one thing. It's very hard to control your truck in a race or even a freestyle, which, to be fair, in the freestyles, sometimes not being able to control your truck can be a good thing, and you'll end up getting points for just trying to, pick your truck up off the ground, so that kind of works out, but it's obviously not a good thing. There isn't a huge variety of arenas and scenery in this game per se. I mean, you have different stadiums, obviously, and you have this outdoor area. The game just kind of gets old somewhat quickly. Like, you're just doing, your freestyles, time destruction, stadium races, outdoor races. And that's fine and all, but you just do that for the whole game, and it just gets bland somewhat quickly. And I'd like to put further emphasis on just how hard it is to win races sometimes with the physics. If you fall over with your truck, you're just done. Like, you've usually lost the race just by doing that in most cases. Which it's very easy to tip your truck over, so you're gonna be struggling likely if you're like me, if you're not a video game master with a lot of these races. Okay, next up we have Still Titans 2. This game is a step up from the first game, but only to such an extent. I could say a lot of the same things about this game compared to the first one. It is easier to control your truck in this game. The physics were improved a bit. It is still wonky nonetheless. It can be really hard to win races. I personally feel like it was a lot easier to get used to trucks and controlling them and not, completely falling over in races. But that's not to say that doesn't still happen. Frankly, just from my personal opinion, I found the races, particularly the outdoor ones at times, to be very, very frustrating, particularly the ones in darker areas. Like the Haunted Forest and Highlands particularly are very dark maps, and doing races in them can be kind of tricky at times to even just figure out where you're going. And this doesn't even necessarily have to apply to the races themselves. Like, even just exploring the overworld in the Haunted Forest, trying to find the world secrets, that can be pretty difficult within itself. You do have a map which does help to figure out where you're going, but it's still, it can be a mess at times. One of the big reasons I put this game over Steel Titans 1 is the new online feature. Something that was certainly lacking in Steel Titans 1, there wasn't any online multiplayer, but yeah, in this game that does exist, you can play it. However, I will say on the Switch version, which is the game I bought, it is very, very rare to find people online. The game's an improvement to the first one, but not by a mile necessarily. Alright, coming in at the first of my top 3 Monster Jam games, we have Monster Jam Path of Destruction. Now this is one of those cases where I think you could honestly say that objectively this might be better than the top 2 games. This game debatably has the most realistic physics of any Monster Jam game. It's actually the only Monster Jam game that has a truck creator, which is personally something I really think they should bring back in a new Monster Jam game if they make a Steel Titans 3 or just any new Monster Jam game. One thing I will say is there isn't really any fully outdoor sections. There's certainly nothing where you're like in a city or, you know, just out in a wasteland somewhere. There's not really anything like that. You're mostly confined to actual stadiums, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for my personal taste in Monster Jam games, I would have preferred some outdoor sections. All around, it's just a really good Monster Jam game, and that's why I put it in my top 3. So coming in at number 2, we have Monster Jam the game. Now this was actually the first Monster Jam game I ever played. That might be a big reason that it is this high on the list, though. Nostalgia probably had a big effect on my list. Cause yeah, I just remember having a bunch of fun in like the freestyle mode as a kid, just crashing into the walls. I didn't care. I didn't even really care about winning as a kid. I just thought the game was really fun. And of course, it does feature outdoor racing, which again, I'm very happy about. The physics certainly aren't very realistic, but again, that's not a bad thing in my taste. I personally think the physics work perfectly for this game. I enjoy them. I would say the soundtrack is certainly within at least the top 2 of all the Monster Jam games, so that's another thing I'd give this game. And with that, there is only one possible game that could have been number 1, and that is Monster Jam Urban Assault. So right off the bat, I will say this game is pretty similar to Monster Jam the game. It pretty much was a direct sequel. The physics are very much so similar to the first game. Again, it has outdoor segments, which I guess is kind of implied in the title, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have its fair share of stadium events as well. If you're wondering why I put this game above Monster Jam the game, I honestly really couldn't tell you exactly. I just know as a kid, when I had the option to either get Monster Jam the game or Urban Assault, after having rented the game or both of the games for some time, I ultimately chose Urban Assault. So much so that I've actually began speedrunning the game on my channel if you want to check some of those videos out. And ultimately, yeah, I would say nostalgia is a huge factor in this game being number 1, as is Monster Jam the game. I can't deny that. It's just a fact of life. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for my top 10 list of the best Monster Jam games. I will say some of these games, it's actually been a while since I've played them. Like for example, I think the last time I played Monster Jam Battlegrounds was probably like, it was somewhere within like the 2017-2018 era, I think. But yeah, this is pretty much my list for right now. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to see more. Click the join button to help financially support the channel and get some cool emotes for the comment section if you would like. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.